Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of our Dark Souls 3 Sellsword any % beginner's guide. We left off at the end of part 1 on the doors to Wonir, and that is where we are going to pick up now. So Wonir, there's a very set way of doing Wonir for the any % route, but I find I get a lot of variation, so I've kind of developed my own strategy to deal with that, and that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to start with grass and a resin. The resin is going to save us 1 hit on each bracelet, and we're going to hit 3 times. So it's 2 to get the first bracelet, but if we're lucky, the 3rd hit will hit the 2nd bracelet. Chase down the arm and just follow up and keep smashing the bracelet. If he attacks with his right arm like we did here, we can just we can do it before he finishes the attack. Here we're going to get 1 hit, and then I back off and go up the slope to try to bait the crawl or an attack that we can counter. Here we're going to go back in and try and get as many hits as we can. The one attack you really need to be careful of is the crawl. If he crawls up the slope, then the smoke that damages us is going to go with him, and it's very hard for us to survive that. So you need to... The basic principle is just make sure he's not doing a crawl, and then once he starts an attack, go in and punish the bracelet. And that's it. We do quite good damage, so it's quite a quick fight. And the only way this normally goes wrong is if you run in for an attack and then he starts the crawl, in which case you need to run off to the side as quickly as you can and probably just spam Estus. Here we're going to chat to the Shrine Handmaiden and level up our decks. As I said before, we're just going to keep putting points into decks until we get to Pontiff. We want to try and get kind of 34 or 35 decks for Pontiff to make the fight easier, and then we can just ignore his phase 2. You could skip this level up if you wanted. If you're confident taking these souls through Irithyll, you can save a few seconds by not running back. We're not planning on really hitting anything except for this big doggo on the bridge, so the extra 4 levels isn't really going to help us all that much. I tagged the bonfire here so that we can have a safety bonfire, but we did also tag the bonfire after Wonir, so that's not strictly necessary, as long as you don't die. So now, how to kill the dog. We're going to two-hand, make sure we've got our charcoal pine resin, and we're going to run forward to this little patch of snow. You can see the 2 statues on the left and right of the bridge, and this is the patch of snow just in front of it. Use the resin, and then we're going to do L1s and hit him twice. That should stagger him with our current dex, and then we can riposte. Now he's going to flip around on the bridge for a little bit and tire himself out. He's all tuckered out, and then he's going to have a little sleepy, and we just finish him off and get the Pontiff's Right Eye. The Pontiff's Right Eye is going to give us a really nice damage boost for consecutive attacks, and with the Sellsword Twinblades, each sword attack counts as a single attack, and after 3 attacks we're at the maximum boost. So that means with just 1 L1 and 1 R1, because the L1 does 2 attacks, we can get that damage bonus really, really quickly. So it's a great ring for our dual wield build. Here we're just going to run... Now we're just going to run through Irithyll, basically. You can just shield up and kind of run through pretty much everything. We tag that bonfire at the base of Irithyll because it is a bit risky. Everything in this area hits pretty hard, although actually it's normally the dogs that are the biggest problem. Just keep your shield up and run past everything. If you wanted to, you could change out to the assassin set here because it has better fire resist, and most of the enemies here, the ones which we're really worried about are the pyromancers. They do big damage with their fire attacks, but I'm too lazy to change my armor, and I think the herald set is great, so I just leave it. We took a diversion to the right there to grab 1 large shard, and we're going to take another diversion there just to grab that one before we go into the church. Our goal here is to get 6 large shards before we get to Pontiff, so that way we can go back and upgrade our Twinblades to +6, which makes Pontiff a little bit easier. We want to tag the bonfire in the church because this is the bonfire that we are going to warp from when we go to Pontiff, so we have to tag this, we need this bonfire. And here we're going to take a little diversion to the right because we can pick up some bones. The bones don't help us too much, but there is also an undead bone shard behind the grave, which will make our Estus stronger and help us for the big 3 bosses at the end: Dragon Slayer armor, Twin Princes, and the Soul of Cinder. run through here, go down into the dark area here, and we're going to cast Spook because we want to drop off, and this minimizes our fall damage. If you're happy to take the fall damage, you don't need Spook. Drop down and then stick to the left. There's a guy from the rafters that will drop down, but as long as you hug the left wall, you should be totally fine. And then here we also have an opportunity to do a little stair skip, which is a little bit faster, and the Spook means that we don't take any fall damage from it. In the water here, we can just roll, so we don't need to use the dagger here. Because it's not super deep water, we can just roll it, and rolling is as fast as using the dagger. So just try to run whenever you're on the land and roll whenever you're in the water. We're going to pick up all the green blossoms because these give us a nice stamina boost and are useful for the big 3 bosses at the end of the run. Then once we pick this up here, we want to come and grab the distant mana bonfire because we have to come back to this after we've done Yhorm in order to run back through Irithyll and open up the gate to Pontiff. So now we're going to run through Irithyll Dungeon. At this ledge, we want to cast Spook, drop off, and then roll, and then tuck back in to grab the shard. If you run close to the first guy, you can normally bait a melee attack, which allows you to then pick up the shard without getting hit. This guy has some very interesting fire attacks. You need to be a bit careful because he can hit you even when you're outside in this area here. But we've got quite a lot of HP, so we should be fine even if we get attacked. And there's the bonfire immediately here to rest at. In addition, if you're playing on PC, make sure you're in offline mode, otherwise you'll get invaded here and you won't be able to rest, and that makes it problematic. You've just got to Alt F4 if that's the case. So here I do a quit out, but it was just to make, for editing purposes, you don't need to quit out here for any reason. You can just rest if you want to. We did have 9 Estus as well, so it's not strictly necessary. We want to go into the second cell here on the left and open the door to grab a Titanite shard, then run out. And here we want to manage our stamina to try to make sure we're running as much as possible. The attack from the jailers will deplete your HP when they can see you, so you're trying to just be as quick as you can here. We grab the Pale Pine Resin because free resin is always great, but we don't really need it. Because we get the Xanthus Ashes, we will always have enough Gold Pine. Cast Spook here and open the door and then drop down. The Spook just allows us to avoid taking any HP damage on that drop. Here, stick to the right, and then we'll avoid that attack. And now we're going to do the skip. So, you want to cast Spook, walk out onto the ledge, and then line it up and roll forward onto this corner, and then backstep. Then that will drop you down. It's a lot easier than it looks. You can do it manually as well, so you can just walk out onto that corner, turn around, and then looking forwards, roll off. But actually that's harder than the backstep strategy because your roll can have variable length. It's difficult to make sure that you get the full roll length as you drop off. So I did some testing, and the backstep is much more consistent and much easier once you get confident with it. So I'd recommend making a save file and using that to practice. Here we can just run past the guy. As long as we're running, it's very hard for him to hit us. We can drop off there, and then we go up the ladder. We want to grab the Undead Bone Shard from the corpse of Laddersmith Gilligan from Dark Souls 2. And then we're going to attack the bonfire, and we are onto Yhorm. We have a small ladder save we can do here, so we're going to cast Spook, get onto the ladder, and we want to drop down to this kind of rock, protrusion in the stonework here. Once we're past that, we can drop off, and we save ourselves, I don't know, very little time. Here, you want to stop in front of that block to make sure that it blocks the fire attack from the basin. Then we just roll the second one, and we can roll straight off here, and Spook saves us. Now, for Yhorm, we want no weapons, and we need to take our gloves off, otherwise we're going to be over-encumbered. So make sure you take your gloves off, otherwise our roll is going to be slower. Well, not over-encumbered, sorry, but we'll be on a medium roll instead of a fast roll. For Yhorm, we want to go through the fog, run all the way through to the back of the room, grab the sword that we need, two-hand it, and then take on Yhorm. The strategy for Yhorm is pretty simple. As he comes out of each attack, you want to be between his legs and walking in front of him. And because you're between his legs, he's going to do the smashdown attack, which we should then be able to walk away from. To start the fight, it takes us a little while to get there, so I tend to run past him, and then we charge up the sword and get the first attack. Once we've got the first attack, we can start to sit under his legs, like here. So just charge and walk forward, we get this, and then we can hit him again. And then we walk back under his legs, charge as we walk out, bait the smash, etc. The things that stop that working are, when he makes this transition to phase 2, he has an extra long stagger. So in that time, rather than walking under him, you want to just do a straight up charge and hit him again. Then he also has this stamp, which will knock us down. You can roll it, but the timing is really hard. I am not especially great at it. Sometimes we can get unlucky and he just does a lot of stamps, and if he does that, then so be it. You just have to work it out. But hopefully with 9 Estus, it shouldn't be too difficult a fight, and there shouldn't be any real reason why we die here. We just need to make sure that we keep under his legs, keep walking out the front, and keep trying to bait that smashdown attack. Now we're back at Firelink. We're going to spend the souls that we got from Yorm on upgrading our dex to 35, which will be more than enough for Pontiff. Then we want to use the bonfire, burn the undead bone shard that we picked up in the graveyard to strengthen our Estus, and then we are going to travel to the distant mana bonfire, and now we're going to run through Irithyll to open up the shortcut to Pontiff. One thing to mention, we now have 5 rings, and so I'm going to swap the first slot between Pontiff's right eye when I'm doing a boss, and then immediately after the boss I'll switch in the covetous Silver Serpent ring to boost the souls that we get from the boss, and then once I've got those souls I'm going to switch back to the Pontiff's eye whenever possible. Roll into this area, and then as soon as you get inside you can just run. You don't need to keep rolling, and you can cut to the left as we saw there, then just run past all those guys. You shouldn't need to, as long as you've got decent endurance, you can just run all the way through and you don't need to worry about getting hit. Through here we're going to run through towards the Silver Knight. He is nearly always going to do the attack where he puts lightning on his weapon and then does this running smash, which is quite telegraphed. As long as you don't roll too early, it should be quite easy to roll if he gets close. Now, the problem up here is going to be the dogs. So we don't have any Alluring Skulls left because we use them for the Deacon, so we just want to stick to the right-hand side, manage our stamina, keep our shield up, and then once we get to this set of stairs, we're going to quit out here, and then when we reload, we can pick up the large shard and heal up. We have lots and lots of Estus here. We're going to go back and level our Sellsword Twinblades before we do Pontiff, so you can go down, you can use all the Estus here you like, because we will rest before we do the boss. We're going to drop off here to pick up another large Titanite shard, and that is the last one we need in order to get +5. So we now have 6 in our inventory, and that will let us upgrade twice. Remember to hold circle so you can climb up the ladder a little bit faster. Then we're just going to head up here. That item down on the left is a soul. If you want to grab that for, I think it's a 5k, you can. Then mostly we should just be able to run straight past this guy. He does have an attack that we need to roll, but if he does it, we only need to roll once, that's fine. Go to the doors, and we're going to quit out here on the doors to reset the enemies. Now, you can just run into this corner here on the right and then bone back, and we're grabbing this soul here because it gives us an extra 5k for our levels before Pontiff, but if you want to be a little bit faster, just run through the doors and immediately bone out. Now we are going to give the ashes that we got before. This is going to let us buy the Pine Risen, and then we sell all of our souls with the Shrine Handmaiden to get the souls that we need to upgrade our weapon. Then with the 6 Titanite shards we can upgrade our Twinblades to +5. The souls that we have left over we can put into Vit or Dex. I don't think there's a benefit between 35 and 37 Dex, so here instead we choose to upgrade Vitality by 2 points because more HP is always better. And then any remaining souls that you have, you can now buy Lightning Resin, and we're going to keep doing that. Now we've got the Xanthus Ashes, any leftover souls that we have after upgrading and leveling, we're just going to use to buy as many Lightning Resin as we can, and that way we don't have to worry about picking up our souls if we die to the boss. So our here we're going to use this as an opportunity to change up our equip load. So we need the starting shield for the parry, we need the grass crest shield for after that for the stamina regen, and we need our swords. This means we have to take off our gloves. So we de-equip the gloves in order to still have a good roll speed. Go through the fog, then we're going to make sure we've got the right shield for the parry, use the green blossom, and then we're going to put resin on our sword. And now we do a parry. We're gonna riposte, and then as he wakes up, we're gonna hit him twice. 1, 2. Now we parry again, riposte, and then we're gonna try to hit him a couple more times. So we switch the grass crest and then two hand, and we're gonna hit him a couple more times. As he starts to explode, we can back off, and now we're just gonna try and smash him again until he's dead. If we're not quite fast enough there, and he is able to summon his phantom, it's easier to not lock on. It makes it walk up to him, take off the lock on, and then wait for the phantom to spawn, and then start spamming your attacks. And with the resin, you should be able to drop the phantom before he's really able to do anything. Now we're gonna you saw we switched to the Silver Serpent Ring to get the extra souls. We switch back to the Pontiff's right eye because we're going to want that for Aldrich once we've got the souls. Here, we're just going to take a little stop behind the bush there to pick up another large shard. Up here, we want to roll through the attack of these two guys. Unfortunately, I get hit here. If you're better than me, you'll be able to roll that. But we've got plenty of HP, so it's okay. We're going to grab the ashes that we need in order to buy large shards, but any large shards we pick up here will save us 4k each. So there's another one at the back of this area here, so we just picked that up there. So between that and the other one we grabbed, we've saved ourselves 8k, which is just 8k more that we can spend on levels. Then we're going to drop down and pick up the Easterner's ashes. Running through Analondo is pretty straightforward. As long as you manage your stamina, you should be able to get through all of this area without being hit. Just run past all the guys and they will mostly just miss you. You can keep your shield up like I am if you want, if you're worried about getting hit, as I always am. Drop off here, then roll, and then we can just dodge that guy's attack and we should be home free. Once we get through this area, I don't think he'll follow you into that area. But it doesn't matter because once we're through here, we're going to activate the lift and then we quit out to save time on the animation. We'll pick up the Ember because that gives us a bit of insurance. If we die against any of the remaining bosses, we can pop the Ember to become Embered again and get some more HP for the fight. We're going to run up the stairs, activate the lift, and then once we've done that, we'll run back and run to the edge of the platform so that we're ready to tag the bonfire as soon as the bridge connects. If you want to, you can pop one of the souls in our inventory here. I'm going to switch over to the staff instead because we want to use the staff for when we do the drop off to Aldrich. Now we're going to rest here, travel back to Firelink, and we want to then purchase the remaining 4 shards that we need in order to upgrade our Sellsword Twinblades to +6. So we've got to give the ash, sell the souls, buy 4 large shards, then we go talk to Andre, we can do our final upgrade, and then we will go take on Aldrich. We're going to spend the remaining souls with the Firekeeper and upgrade our Vitality, and then we're just going to spend whatever we've got left over to buy resins with the Shrine Handmaiden. We're going to keep leveling Vit until the late game. So we already have Dex at 35 and we get +3 levels from the Pontiff's right eye ring. The soft cap is 43, so we can level up to 40, and after that we get diminishing returns. But we want to put as many points into Vitality as we can because all the remaining bosses in the game are quite hard now. Here you can just run past this guy. As long as you're running, you won't get hit by his attack. If you do want to roll it, you can totally roll it. It's pretty straightforward. Now we're going to do the stairs skip. So this is why I have the staff. I'm going to cast Spook in order to not take falling damage. You can do it without Spook, so there's a little bit of moss on the ground, and if you land on that moss, you won't take the full damage, but it's quite hard, so we use Spook to be safe. Here, we want to hug the right-hand side, then duck left, and then jump over. The reason we do that is because there's a little bit of a... If we just stick to the left, we drop down a little bit, and then that staggers us from the drop. There's like a little gap on the stairs, and that opens us up to getting hit by the fireballs and messes with our timing. So that's why we start right, jog left, and then jump the banister to the right. We quit out here because it gives us a chance to buff ourselves before we go into the room, and I personally find this is more consistent. This means we can go into the fight and then back up, and that allows us to bait a attack from Aldrich that is more easily punishable. So I personally find that quitting out and buffing before I go in is much better. In phase 1, when we get the arrows, you can just walk past him and start punishing his tail. And the arrows won't track you in phase 1. They do in phase 2, but not in phase 1. Aldrich just takes a lot of practice. We're trying to bait out his melee attacks because the melee attacks give us a nice opportunity to punish him. He'll take way more damage to the Gwendolyn sitting on top. If you hit him in the Gwendolyn, he's gonna I think it's 200%. The values are on the wiki, but he takes double damage there. Then if you hit him in the body, it's less, and then if you hit him in the tail, it's even less. So you want to try and hit the head whenever you can. Now we're going to do Dancer straight away. We get teleported. If you don't want to do Dancer straight away, then you can just bone out here and come back from the Vault Bonfire, but we're going to do it straight away. You want to buff yourself, hit the old lady once and she'll die, walk past her and then sit between her and the plinth and you can pick up the item. Phase 1 with Dancer, just roll the grabs, roll any attacks you need to, and just stay close to Dancer's rear and just keep punishing like this. You need to be careful to only do one attack at a time. Then we get the spin into phase 2. It's 7 spins, so count them out and then just roll the 7th like that, and the attacks will miss you. If you're not confident on that roll, you can just follow Dancer for 4 or 5 and then stop moving, and Dancer will move away from you and be too far away on the 7th roll. But yeah, watch the attacks, do the punish, and then we should be able to finish that fight quite quickly. If you die here, it's totally fine. You can just go to the Vault Bonfire, come back, and then run into the room. The danger is then if you die to Dancer again before picking up your souls, you're going to lose all those souls from Aldrich, but I think that should be fine because Dancer phase 1 is not that hard. Now we're going to run through Lothric Castle. So we're going to try and get through this area as quickly as possible and get to the Dragon Barracks and then Dragon Slayer armor. And while we're doing that, we're going to try and pick up all the chunks we need. So here, you can just dodge these guys. If we get the thrust attack, so we don't need to roll, we can just dupe to the right and they'll miss us. I quit out here just to reset, but we've got 9 SS and we're full HP, so you could have just tagged the bonfire and run on. You don't necessarily need to quit out there. These are our first chunks. So we get 1 chunk here. With these guys, you want to dodge the first guy, avoid the arrow while the other guy reloads, stick to the left and roll that guy, and then you can just come through, get the chunk. Be a little bit careful here, and then we're going to drop off here and go and get the chunk on the side here. There's no real good way to like quit out or anything here. If you quit out here, they'll just attack you as soon as you respawn. So you just kind of need to run through it. But if you do die, it's not too bad. You can pick up your souls quite easily. Then we're going to quit out here because the axe guy will follow us. And then we want to rest and we're going to go back and upgrade because we want to go and do Dragon Slayer armor straight away after going through Lothric Castle. If you're nervous about doing that run with 111,000 souls, you can rest in the Dancer room, then go and upgrade Vitality, spend all your souls, then go back to Dancer's room, do the run and pick up the Titanite chunks, and then come back and level up. But we just do it all at once because it saves us a warp and saves us some time. Sell the souls, level up Vit. We're just going to keep putting everything in Vit until we get to 40. And then we go back to the Dragon Barracks. So, some important things about the Dragon Barracks. We can run up the Dragon Barracks and basically quit out on the stairs, reload, and then hopefully avoid all the fire. So here, you want to make sure you've got a full stamina bar, run forward, keep your finger on the run button, and then we use the menu to pull up the quit out menu and quit out at the last second. Then we just reload and run through. We do get hit a little bit, but that's fine. Here, you need to be careful with the guy throwing firebombs because those barrels will explode, so just be a little bit cautious. Then we're going to run off here. You can try to pick up the soul on the drop. So we get that and we get the animation cancel, which is quite nice there. But we don't need it. We're going to run through here. Then we need to activate the lift in order to get the shortcut up to Dragon Slayer armor. So this is the shortcut. We can take this from the Dancer room. So you would just go up the ladder for Dancer, go into the room with the Knight and go to the left instead. Now we check behind to make sure no one's following us. And now we're going to go straight onto Dragon Slayer. We want to be at 100%, use the resin, and then we're going to run to the left. We're going to resin our weapon, and then we run to the right. And this sets us up nicely to punish this charge attack from Dragon Slayer. So, Dragon Slayer fight. Mostly, you just have to learn his attacks and learn how to dodge them. There's not a huge amount other than that. We use the magic resin because he's basically resistant to everything, so it doesn't matter too much what resin we use. We could use lightning, we could use any resin, they're all going to do about the same, but we want to keep the lightning for being more effective against princes, so we can just use the magic resin because we picked it up for free. It doesn't really matter. And that's Dragon Slayer armor. We'll switch out to the Silver Serpent Ring so we can get the extra souls. And we want to tag this bonfire because we're going to walk back to it for princes when we take the lift up to them. Go down the stairs here, and then we do this because we need to get this chunk. And then we go through and we're going to tag the Archives bonfire, and then we're going to run through the run through the Grand Archives. Here, we're going to pick up the Grand Archives key in order to open the door. You want to spam select once you open the door to get rid of the prompt, and then that will let you quit out on the doors to save a little bit of in-game time in the animation. Go immediately left, run forward. You can avoid the Crystal Lizard. We don't need anything he has to offer. And then here, we're basically just going to run through the archives and pick up a whole bunch of chunks on the way. So our first one's here, turn right, grab the chunk there, and then run through. As long as you keep running all the way through there, you shouldn't have to worry about any enemy attacks. We can just run straight past everything, including the Thrall. Try and keep to the right hand side here to keep a good line and minimize our distance traveled. This guy, we can just run straight past, cut to the right to pick up this chunk, and then we're going to run back. Now, this is probably the first tough section of the archives. We want to try to maintain a running pace up that first set of stairs, and then we want to try to run from the very base of the stairs. So I screw it up a little bit here. This is why I get hit by the Thrall. If you just keep a full run all the way from the base of the stairs with a full Estus bar, you can dodge his attack. There, we need to heal up, and we use the drop to get a little bit of an animation cancel and save ourselves some time. And then in this area here, if you need to heal up again, you can. Nothing can hit you here. Then we're going to come out and continue straight up the stairs. We can just run straight past these guys. The priests here only really have one attack that can mess you up, and that's the wax attack. If they do that and they hit you with it, you get stuck in place. Here it's not too bad, but earlier in the archives where there's Thralls and the Giant Crystal Sage, if you get hit with the wax attack and get stuck in place, you can then just get completely comboed out and die. So if you see the wax attack, you're going to need to roll it, but mostly they do magic. The wax is a bit rarer. As you saw there, we've picked up another chunk, and then we can just run past the gargoyle. This guy has a few different attacks, so here we get the charge, and that's fine for us. Sometimes he'll just drop off. Sometimes he can chase us a lot, so if he chases you down to this area, just quit out to reset him. Then we grab those 2 chunks, continue in, and go to the right. And that is all the chunks that we need in order to upgrade our weapon to +9 now. We're going to head outside. This thrall behind us is so persistent. He chases us a very long way. Up here, you can just run through, stick to the right. You'll need to roll the Axe Smash, and then you might also need to roll the Crystal Soul Spear. I want to activate the elevator there, but the thrall is still chasing us, so we just run away. But you don't really need that elevator. If you die running up the stairs here, that's going to suck because you've got to rerun the whole thing. But the stairs here are not too bad. Like, I can't remember the last time I died on these stairs. My line here is not great. If you watch Fudge Cow's tutorial, he says that you can basically run straight up the middle, and then when you get to these guys, you can go to the right. But I haven't really worked out that line yet, so I think there's... I need to watch more videos and see what a good line there is. But ultimately, we are going to rest before we do Princes anyway, so it's not too bad. We can just heal up and it's fine. I've sped this section up because all we're going to do... So we ride the lift down and we pop the souls while we're waiting. Now this is where we want to get the slab. So it's a double lift here. So you send the lift up, get back on and ride it down, and then you can drop off here and grab the slab, and then we're going to bone out. And this also positions the lift nicely for us so that we can ride it back up to Princes from the Dragon Slayer armor bonfire. Now we have to bone somewhere, and unfortunately our last rested doesn't help us. So we bone back to Firelink, but we don't actually need to do anything in Firelink at that stage. Instead, we're going to go grab 2 more chunks. Oh yeah, so sorry, we don't have all the chunks. We're going to get our last 2. We grab the Ember there just for some insurance in case we die. Then we're going to run up the bridge, drop down, grab the Undead Bone Shard, grab the 2 chunks, and then we go back to Firelink. We could have done this earlier, but the problem is that if you drop under the bridge before you've activated the dragons, then you can't then run past the dragons next time. So we need to run past the dragons on our first run, and then we can come back to the bridge later to pick up the chunks. Now we've got all of our chunks and our slab, we're going to chat to Andre and upgrade our Sellsword Twinblades to +10. Then we can level up and spend all our souls, and then we can move on to Princes. From here, we're going to warp to the Dragon Slayer armor bonfire, and then we're going to take the lift up to Princes. Now, all of this lifting and running around is really costing us time. So being able... One of the biggest time saves we're going to have in this run is to run through the archives and then do Princes immediately. And that's going to save us a lot of time with all of this running backwards and forwards and activating lifts. But the downside with that is that you need to do Princes with a +7 Twinblade, and you do not get the opportunity to rest. So if you've used Estus on the run through the archives, you're not going to have that for the fight. And also, if you die, you're going to have to take the lift from the previous shortcut. You can't take this one. So all of that it's very risky, and so we're not going to do that because this is a beginner's route. You'll see I didn't send the lift back down there. That's because it doesn't have time to reach the bottom before we quit out on the door, so the game doesn't actually register it. If it means you'll have to wait, you'll have to call the lift again if you die and want to take it back up. And now we are going to do Princes. So here you can lock on, and that will track you to them after the teleport. And the general strategy we want to do for Princes is we want to stay behind him or them and wait until they attack, roll the attack, and then punish. The closer we can stay to them, the less likely they are to teleport. So we want to try and keep immediately behind them for the whole fight. The challenge with Princes is you really want the fight to be over as fast as possible. So you want to try to be two-handing your weapons so that you can do a lot more damage. The problem with that is if you get hit, you get really punished. And we see this from the Princes fight and the Dragon Slayer armor and Soul of Cinder. And I think that is what makes them the hardest fights in this run. You really want to double hand because it will shorten the duration of the fight so considerably but it means if you get hit, you take way more damage because you don't have your shield up. Phase 2, we want to always be attacking behind so that we can hit the Elder Prince on the back, and then once we get him down to 0, as you know, he's going to try and resurrect his brother, and while he's doing so, we can punish him. If we can't get the kill straight out in that moment, you want to back up, because when he resurrects, he's going to do an explosion animation. Then while he climbs on his brother's back, there's going to be another brief window to get one attack, and then after that, you're going to need to start dodging again. We come back to Firelink, we're going to pop the souls, and then we are going to spend our remaining levels. So here we're going to get Vit up to 40, that's our final goal, and then anything else we can put into Dex. Our soft cap for Dex is 40. Now we're going to place the souls, the great souls, onto the thrones. I've sped this section up because there's not much to do here other than just click the button. You can get some really nice animation cancels to cut short the quite long animation when you place the souls, but I can't do that yet, and it's beyond the scope for this video. Once you activate the cutscene here, there's a brief moment where you can use a Homeward Bone to bone out. And if you do, you end up in the Kiln of the First Flame, which means you end up like outside by the Solar Cinder. So you can skip this running segment, and you skip this bit where you activate this bonfire. Fudge Cow talks about it in his any percent run. I've tried it, and I just tried it a couple of times, and I couldn't get it because you can't see your menus when you do it. So you have to memorize the inputs, and I just didn't do that. But okay. Now we're on the final boss. We are on to Soul of Cinder. So we're going to swap out our rings and put the Pontiff's right eye back on. Now Soul of Cinder's got good immunity to all elemental damage, so we're going to use the magic resin to save ourselves a pine resin because they're both about the same. I think lightning resin does about 6 more damage per hit, which is pretty insignificant. And then we are just trying to roll every attack. So the golden rules for the Cinder fight are quite simple. Don't attack him unless he is in an animation, because he has very little wind up on all of his attacks. So if you are attacking him while he's standing still, he can very easily he often won't stagger. So he can just start an animation and just hit you immediately. So you're trying to be patient, wait for him to attack, dodge the attack, and then you punish afterwards. As with Princes and as with Dragon Slayer, you're going to get a really strong benefit from double-handing your weapon. You're going to really reduce the duration of the fight. So you want to try and double-hand whenever you can. I personally only use the shield if he goes into Pyromancer mode, which is the most annoying mode in Phase 1. Otherwise, I just try and double-hand and roll everything. Now, when he does a Phase 2 transition, we're going to buff, and then we stay away from him to bait that attack. We hit him once, and then we run away, and he's going to do this 5-hit combo. After he explodes, we can run in and get one punish, and then, same as before, we just need to roll everything. Lightning is great for us because we can keep close to him, we can roll the attack, and then we can just punish him afterwards. Kick is frustrating because it's got a very small wind-up. And that's it. We do enough damage to make the fight pretty short, and with +6 Estus and with 9 Estus, we can tank a lot of hits, so we don't have to be too cautious, but we also don't want to die, obviously. And that's it. We get to the bonfire, hit the bonfire, it will default to no, don't link, so you want to hit left and then press use, and then you're done. A few final comments just before we finish for things that I didn't have time for during the videos. So first, sorry that a lot of this is very rushed, especially the boss fights. There's not much time to actually describe a lot of the strategies. Dark Souls 3 is, to my mind, much harder and much more complicated and has a lot more nuance than Dark Souls 1 or 2 when it comes to speedrunning and strategy. It's much harder to become OP, and so there's just so much to explain. If you enjoyed this video and you want more information about any of the aspects of the fights or the run, please just leave a comment and maybe I can make another video, or just do a narrated playthrough or something. I'm thinking of doing all bosses next, or maybe some fun runs. So but yeah, This video took a lot longer to make than I expected, and it was a lot harder, and I think that's a real testament to just how much is going on in Dark Souls 3 and the depth of the mechanics and the AI in comparison to Dark Souls 1. I'm really glad that I picked this up and got back into it. I think it's a great game, and the more I run it, the more I really love it. Final notes. You'll notice we didn't level up endurance at any point during the run. We just left it at the base value of 11. That's because we need to get it up to 17 in order to get an extra L1 off of our Twinblades, and the 6 points required for that are just better spent elsewhere. So there's not really any point upgrading your endurance at all for the run. In terms of speed, this route, so we're going to come in at 1 hour 14 minutes for this segmented run for the tutorial. Now, you can take out a lot of safety strats, so you can take out a lot of the rests where we're just going back to Firelink to spend our souls so we don't lose them. If you just do the game without dying, or you're able to pick up your souls after you die, then you don't need to keep going back and spending your souls each time. This is particularly true while we're using the raw Twinblades, because we're not getting any damage bonus from going back and leveling Dex or Vitality. We're just spending the souls at that point so we don't lose them, or gaining the extra vit to make the bosses easier. So as you get more confident with the bosses, you can start to take out all of those moments where you're going back to Firelink to level up and then coming back to the bonfire you were just at. Using this route and taking out all of the safety strategies and doing it deathless, I've managed to get a PB of 1 hour, 8 minutes, 46 seconds, which I'm pretty pleased with. I think the only obstacle now to me getting sub 60 and basically doing the world record route is the Abyss Watchers fight. So my plan now is just to get better at the Abyss Watchers fight, and then that means I can cut out getting the Dream Chasers ashes. I can do Abyss Watchers first, and I think that is going to give me what I need to get under 60 minutes. But I think this route is great. It's a great way to learn speedrunning in Dark Souls 3, and it will teach you all the skills you need to then do the world record strat and get those really, really good times. So if you're just starting out, I think this is a good way to learn. And otherwise, the Abyss Watchers with an unupgraded a +2 raw short sword and base vitality is so difficult. I think this is a good way to enjoy the game and run the game and play the game and have a good time and not worry about dying. And then slowly over time, as you get better, you're going to be able to do those more aggressive, more risky runs and hopefully get that sub 60. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope this has been useful. If you have any comments or feedback, please leave them below, and I look forward to the next video. Bye.